not blaming the families of the brides. However, he refuses to judge the families harshly. The kind of pressures they face from the Taliban is unimaginable. The Taliban not only have power, but are also not against using force if they need to. Families don't have the choice to say no, he explained, adding that there are no mechanisms left to complain. The religious scholars, judges, and village elders who could have previously intervened are also afraid of the Taliban. So who can a woman be forced to marry approach? FJ, the journalist who fled her home, agrees with the point of view. They, the Taliban fighters, forcing girls to marry, have the support of their leadership because they were so confident that they do this threats and kidnapping. I was lucky to escape for now the neighboring country, but my life is in limbo, as I could be deported any time. But here are so many other women I know who had to marry Taliban because it's not easy to leave if you're a woman, he said. A call for change worries about the future. Waldman urged Taliban to urgently change course while asking the international community to intervene. The international community should develop and implement a coordinated strategy that pressures the Taliban to do this, and they must send a clear message to Taliban that their discriminatory policies against women and girls will never be accepted. They should impose consequences of the Taliban for their conduct, including targeted sanctions or travel bans applied through the UN Security Council resolution that could influence the Taliban without harming the Afghan people, she recommended. Meanwhile, FJ remains deeply concerned about the safety for her family, who remain under Taliban surveillance. They know I have left, and they are harassing and shaming my family because of it. I'm so afraid they will hurt my parents or kill them for supporting my freedom, she added, choking back tears. I'm a very bad mental state. I used to be a voice of Afghan women, and overnight I became voiceless, with no rights, and no one to fight and defend my rights. I wish no women had to go through this experience, she added. So that's this week's report. This is from Afghanistan. So next week we'll probably continue with Afghanistan and the similar stories that are going on in that part of the world. So until next time, keep eating to your own beat, take the road less traveled, and have a great day. Welcome back, everybody. This is Brian Kirk with Eat to My Own Beat, Taking the Road Less Traveled. With a news update this week, we're doing Afghanistan again, and we're going to talk about a story from NPR, and it's titled, What It's Like Being a Woman in Afghanistan Today, Death in Slow Motion. This is written by Ruchi Kumar and Hikmat Nouri. On early Monday morning, just before the break of dawn, a 23-year-old Afghan journalist packed her bags, said a quiet goodbye to her family, and left her home in a carefully mapped and cautiously executed plan. My heart was beating so fast for the whole journey till I reached the safe place. I was escaping the Taliban's brutality, and I was afraid they would capture me, she shared. The journalist asked to be identified only with her initials, FJ, because her family is still under Taliban surveillance inside Afghanistan. She was escaping threats of forced marriage with the local Taliban fighter in her district of North Afghanistan and relocating to another country. One of their commanders, who was only being referred to as Malavi, a title given to a religious leader, demanded that my parents marry me to him. They wanted to control and punish me for the work against them, FJ said, referring to a reporting critical of the Taliban treatment of women and minorities. When I refused, they were offended, and they first threatened to kill my parents. But then they threatened to kidnap me, she told NPR, speaking from the location where she was hiding. FJ said that she knows girls from her community, including ones of her neighbors, who have been kidnapped and forced into marriage with Taliban fighters in the past year. Report: Women are trapped in a web of restrictions. A new report released in Amnesty International on Tuesday titled Death in Slow Motion, Women and Girls Under Taliban corroborates her claim, stating that the rates of child, early, and forced marriage in Afghanistan appear to have surged under the Taliban rule. The report, which included interviews with 90 Afghan women and 11 girls across 20 of the 34 Afghan provinces, details a web of interrelated restrictions and prohibitions that left many Afghan women trapped with no agency over their work, their education, their freedom to move in their clothing and marriage options. The report also covers a range of issues affecting Afghan women living under the Taliban, including restrictions on education, employment, clothing, and even movement. The report also draws attention to the lack of legal avenues for women to address gender-based violence and protection for their rights following the collapse of the existing institution system and safeguards since the Taliban takeover. Our report documents how in less than a year, the rights of women and girls have been decimated by the Taliban, said Nicolette Waldman, researcher at Amnesty International and one of the authorities of the report. Waldman said that the report was harrowing to research. What really came through during the research was how all the restrictions on women and girls are so interconnected. It would start out documenting a case of forced marriage and then realize I was also documenting a violation of the right to work or to move or any other number of violations that just one woman could be facing with her daily life, she said, adding the Taliban's restrictions like a spiderweb trapping the entangled women and girls. Child marriages and forced marriages. The number of child and forced marriages is a critical part of the newly released document. Rates were already exceptionally high in the country and even before the Taliban takeover. Nearly 28% of Afghan women and girls between the ages of 15 and 49 years old were married before the age of 18, according to UNICEF. While there have been a nationwide assessment to determine the trends in early and forced marriages, the report stated that there are several indicators pointing to increasing rates, including research from the human rights and humanitarian organizations such as UNICEF and the Danish Refugee Council. During its research, Amnesty International received several other reports from protection actors and local activists that child, early, and forced marriages rates have spiked in their areas, whether rural or urban, the report stated. Often these marriages are a result of economic and humanitarian crisis and widespread starvation, forcing many families to marry their younger daughters in exchange for a bride price that can help sustain them. In Afghanistan, it's a perfect storm for child marriage. We have a patriarchal government, war, poverty, drought, girls out of school. With all these factors combined, we knew that child marriages would go through the roof, Stephanie Sinclair stated, director of Too Young to Wed, an organization working to prevent forced and child marriages, told Amnesty International. The report documents 2 cases of forced marriages to Taliban fighters and commanders and received credible reports to several other cases. What we read in these reports is only a fraction of the crimes the Taliban are committing against the women in Afghanistan, who are living in their darkest hours. Huda Khamosh, an Afghan activist in exile who was arrested by the Taliban for protesting earlier this year, told NPR it is difficult to conduct thorough investigations under the Taliban. We heard of many cases of women committing suicide to escape the Taliban brutality, she said, referring to a report of women's in Afghan media.